On Tech News Today, Yahoo wants you to forget your email password. Plus, a real paper plane can be controlled in virtual reality. And we'll show you the English town that's putting Wi-Fi into the sidewalks. It's all coming up next on Tech News Today.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for Tech News Today is provided by CacheFly at CacheFly.com.
This is Tech News Today for Friday, October 16th, 2015. This episode is brought to you by Braintree. Looking to set up payments for your business? Braintree gives your app or website a payment solution that accepts just about every payment method with one simple integration. Plus, Braintree will give you the first $50,000 in transactions fee-free. To learn more, visit BraintreePayments.com/TNT. And by ZipRecruiter. Are you hiring? With ZipRecruiter.com, you can post to 100-plus job sites, including social networks, all with a single click. Screen, rate, and hire the right candidates fast. Try ZipRecruiter with a free 4-day trial now at ZipRecruiter.com/TNT. Tech News Today is the show where we talk about the tech news with the journalists who report it. My name is Mike Elgan. Christina Warren is off today, so let's jump right into the news. Dropbox yesterday unveiled cloud-based group editing software called Paper. The offering competes with Google Docs and is based on the work of a company called HackPad, which Dropbox acquired last year. Paper is super minimalist. It doesn't have controls or options on the screen. It's just like a plain white writing surface, otherwise known as Paper. Sort of like Medium. It's kind of like a Medium type of product in terms of the editing, but then you actually use it like sort of Google Docs. The big question is, does anybody care that there's essentially a word processor in the cloud? There are already hundreds of them, and it doesn't seem to be a super great business. Got more news for you coming right up, including some gigantic numbers. But first, I want to talk about Braintree. Braintree is code for easy mobile payments. It's easy for your customers. They want to buy your product or service. You want to sell it to them. And if you're using Braintree, you'll make sure that they do have a satisfying experience. They'll complete their purchase because they really take care of the mobile cart abandonment problem that is pandemic on e-commerce sites around the internet and on apps. If you've ever used Uber, you've used Braintree. Uber's super easy. You get in the car, you get out of the car, and you never even think about the payments. It's all handled very reliably and securely behind the scenes because of Braintree. And you can have that exact same feature in your mobile app, in your website, when people go to buy things from you. And they'll take everything, including, of course, Apple Pay, Android Pay, PayPal, Venmo, all the credit cards, even Bitcoin. They'll even take Bitcoin. So cool. And, of course, with their fast payouts and continuous support, you'll always be ready, whether you're a brand new startup or whether you're a super unicorn like Uber. In fact, some people even call them an Ubercorn. And they'll stick with you all the way and expand with your business. Braintree gives you a full stack payment solution, support for all payment types with a single integration across all platforms and superior fraud protection, great customer service, and super fast payouts. Check it out for yourself. It's at BraintreePayments.com/TNT. And we thank Braintree for their support of Tech News Today. Well, in other news, Yahoo wants you to forget your Yahoo Mail password. The company rolled out a new alternative to passwords with something they're calling an account key. Doug MacMillan is a tech reporter for the Wall Street Journal and joins us now. Welcome to the show, Doug.
Hi, Mike.
Now, how does this work exactly? It sounds like a great idea to get rid of passwords, but how does this actual thing work?
So essentially, it's an opt-in program. Yahoo had hundreds of millions of email users, and starting this week, they're starting to prompt them on whether or not they want to sign up for this account key. If you opt into it, Yahoo is essentially going to send to your phone an option. As soon as you log into your account on your desktop computer, they're going to send to your smartphone a question, and basically, someone is trying to log into your account from a desktop computer. Is this you? And they'll give you some specifics like the physical location of where that desktop computer is, some other details to verify that that is in fact you logging in. Now, when you actually do go ahead and press yes, and authenticate that device. That device is yours to log into email without a password in perpetuity. So saving you the hassle of having to try to remember a password for a while. Now, this kind of raises the question of, isn't that less secure? Because then you're essentially, if your laptop is stolen or if somebody, gets onto that screen, they can log in. Well, Yahoo is behind the scenes emphasizing that it's doing all these algorithms to try to figure out whether or not it's constantly trying to figure out whether or not it's you, and the behaviors that you're doing on that email service are in fact you. Like if you're emailing at the regular intervals that you usually do and from the same locations that you usually do.
Wow, I don't like the sound of that at all. I tend to travel all over the world and communicate at random times. Last thing I would want is Yahoo saying, "No, you're not you. I'm not going to let you get access to your email." Well, I guess you can always actually use a password in those cases then and log in, can't you?
Yeah, the worst case scenario is if it detects unusual activity, or if you travel to the other side of the world, it'll just log you out, and you just have to use your password to get back in.
I see. Now, you said that this is more secure than two-factor authentication. How so?
That's a good question. Yahoo is emphasizing that behind the scenes they are, doing a lot of work to determine whether or not this is you all the time. So I think that's what they're saying is the advancement over two-factor authentication. I'm not sure either, but I think that this is essentially akin to two-factor authentication because you're using another device to authenticate, your first device, but I might be wrong about that.
Now, can this be used with other email platforms, or is this just for the one?
So Yahoo is rolling out this change in tandem with a bunch of other kind of enhancements to their email service, and one of those is for the first time they're incorporating your AOL, your Hotmail, and your Outlook accounts can all be viewable inside Yahoo Mail. Now, that's obviously omitting a pretty big one in Gmail, which is the leader in webmail. Yahoo says that they're working on Gmail. They expect that they're going to be able to incorporate Gmail sometime in the near future.
That would make sense. I mean, Gmail is pretty extensible with, with regular, apps out there for email. Now, you wrote that Yahoo spent 2 years and tens of millions of dollars developing this feature. What was so costly in terms of time and money? Was it this trying to figure out if you're really you part of it, or is there something else that's expensive behind the scenes?
Yeah, I don't know the specifics of that. The team that Yahoo has put to work on email since kind of Marissa came to lead Yahoo 3 years ago has been led by this guy, Jeff Bonforge, who they acquired, who used to run an email search startup called Zobni. He's really built out this group and gotten a lot of resources to invest. He says that this stuff, both the password feature and kind of some of the new features around email search that they're doing in Yahoo Mail are very computationally intensive. I mean, you got to remember that when you're the second largest email provider in the world, that's a lot of accounts and a lot of data that's going back and forth on a daily basis. So any feature that you roll out is going to be pretty cost intensive. And he actually, we were sitting in a room full of journalists this week. Somebody asked the question, how much did this cost? We expected kind of a non-answer, and he actually put a number to it, which is tens of millions of dollars, which kind of gives you a little bit of a peek inside, how expensive it is to operate one of these large kind of email services.
And the app is free, too. Doug MacMillan is at WSJ.com. That's the Wall Street Journal's website. And on Twitter at DMac1. Doug, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks a lot.
All right, bye-bye. A new report from Privacy International and the BBC says Ugandan President Yoweri Museveni used advanced surveillance technology to get rid of significant political opposition in the country. Amar Toor is a reporter for The Verge and joins us to talk about this story. Amar, welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming on. Now, who did Museveni target exactly? How did he use surveillance to eliminate or reduce opposition?
Well, according to Privacy International's report, this all started after the presidential elections of 2011. which he won. And following those elections, the country saw widespread protests, a lot of political upheaval over allegations of corruption, as well as just general high costs of living. And from that, a lot of opposition groups just sprang up, basically. And in order to quell the situation, according to Privacy International, President Museveni, around late 2011, reached out to, or actually created a program specifically geared towards bringing these groups down through surveillance, blackmail, and various other means. It's important to note also that following the election, many dissidents, both activists and actually politicians, were detained or jailed, often without reason.
What is FinFisher?
FinFisher is a extremely powerful type of malware that basically when it affects a computer, it can affect computers, smartphones, webcams, virtually any kind of hackable equipment. And what it does, basically, it gives the owner or whoever is sending it free reign over your computer. For example, it can hijack your webcam, it can read your emails, it can basically invade your life. And this is produced by a company called Gamma Group International, which is based in the UK but has various affiliates in other countries, including Germany. And they do a lot of their business, as has been revealed over the past couple of years, to very repressive regimes, the likes of Ethiopia, Bahrain, and now, of course, Uganda.
You also talked about their report and how it describes what's happening in the future. And they're planning an upgrade, for example, for the upcoming elections. What sort of upgrade are they planning?
Well, this is basically what Privacy International called a centralized communications monitoring center. And according to the group, according to Privacy International, this is they began receiving, or I guess opening bids for this in 2013. It's not clear whether this was directly tied to the upcoming elections, which are next year, which will be the fifth since Museveni came to power in 1986. But it certainly seems, circumstantially that would have something to do with it. According to Privacy International, it's not yet built. It was supposed to be built and operational by 2016. But there are some documents that they uncovered which show that they are very close to at least contracting it out with one Israeli company called NICE being the front runner.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. And I suspect this is a trend across repressive regimes and democratic regimes around the world. So we'll keep an eye on them and see if this, as it is almost surely will, get him the next election as well. Amar Toor is at TheVerge.com and on Twitter at Amar TOO. Thank you so much for joining us today, Amar.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
A report on the site 538 recommends that you disregard movie ratings on Fandango. Walter Hickey is the lead lifestyle writer for 538 and joins us now. Welcome to the show.
How's it going, Mike?
It's going great, thank you. Now, what's so bad about Fandango movie ratings?
So what's interesting about Fandango is that when you kind of plot out all of a site's movie ratings, what you'd expect to see is that you'd have some sort of reliable distribution. Either like movies can get a 1, movies can get a 5. At any different point in this kind of process, you'd expect that movies can do good and bad. Fandango doesn't have that. Fandango, every single movie that we pulled that had over 30 reviews on it had above 3 stars or more. And that's not a really reliable rating system when you're claiming 5 different stars, but at the same time, everything on the site is going to be 3 stars or higher. And part of this was that we noticed that they had a habit of always rounding every single rating up.
Yeah, they also had trouble with averaging in general, right? And it wasn't just rounding up to a neat, tidy number, like rounding up, 4.7, rounding it up to 5. Was it? This is some funky math they were doing, wasn't it?
Yeah. So again, this is to kind of go over the math real quick. We'd expect something with a score of a 3.1 if you're rounding to the nearest half star. We'd expect a 3.1 to be rounded to a 3, right? Their system, on the other hand, rounded that up to a 3.5 star movie, which is, I mean, that's kind of dishonest when it comes to the actual quality of the film. If somebody walked into a theater and saw Mordecai thinking it was a 3.5-star movie, they probably walked into the theater a little bit disappointed, right?
Exactly. Yes, they would. Even a 3 rating might be stretching it. Now, how is this different from like Rotten Tomatoes?
Yeah, so in order to kind of figure out whether this was just a idiosyncrasy of their rating system or whether it was across the industry, we did compare it to as many ratings as we can pull. We did the IMDb user score, we did the Metacritic rating, we did the Metacritic user rating, we did the Rotten Tomatoes score, we did the Rotten Tomatoes user score, and we plotted all these distributions out. You can see it on your screen now, and it's so far skewed, right, to a higher score. What's interesting about Rotten Tomatoes is that what we liked about that was that you kind of can see at both the half-star level and the 5-star level, you do have movies on both of those extremes, which is what we'd expect in theaters, right? On any given one of these ratings, it's up to you. You don't have to think that the IMDb user score, the Metacritic user score looks like what you think ratings should look like. You don't have to think that it should look like Rotten Tomatoes. But you just got to know going into this that different sites have different skews, and Fandango has a very particular skew that you might not come out of a movie happy.
What did Fandango tell you when you confronted them with all this information?
So at first they confirmed it. They said, yes, we always round from a 3.1 to a 3.5. After showing them a few examples, they discovered it was a glitch in their system, and my understanding is that they're fixing it now.
If this isn't a glitch and some of the other things don't appear to be something they consider a glitch, I mean, the rounding is a glitch, but probably not the almost complete lack of, you know, one-star and 2-star rated movies. If they are, in fact, skewing it, would that be against the law, or is it okay for sites like this to do that?
Well, actually, the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission, which does all the consumer protection material for the government, they're very, very interested, particularly now in online ratings in general. They've already had a few different cases. They've already had cases where reviewers were being paid, or they found people were coerced into submitting a positive review for a site. And, you know, you can tell that they're very interested in this sector because it's a new sector. It's definitely kind of becoming the way that we rely on products, the way that we're able to figure out what we want to buy. So they're very intrigued by sites, whether they're selling vacation packages, movie tickets, products, anything. They're very interested in making sure that the ratings are reliable here, because if they're not, there's a false advertising liability potentially there, and they want to make sure that every kind of rating out there is as honest as possible. Yeah,
absolutely. Well, I, for one, like Rotten Tomatoes, even though I don't always agree with them, but I do trust them to faithfully represent what is being said out there about various movies. Walter Hickey is at 538.com and on Twitter at Walt Hickey. Walter, before I let you go, let me ask you a question. What is 538? Can you tell us about this publication?
Yeah, of course. So 538 is a data news website. We started off predicting elections. That's where the 538 electoral votes number comes from. Since we moved to ESPN, we've expanded into doing sports coverage, lifestyle coverage, economics coverage, all this kind of stuff. So if you want to look at the 2016 election from a data-oriented standpoint of what you really need to know, check out 538. If you're interested in Moneyball or any of the kind of ways that we're approaching sports from a statistical perspective, check us out. And we're always trying to bring the lessons that we learn from politics and sports into other places, which is how we get reports like this Fandango one.
That's brilliant. What a great plum that you have there, because you're basically you basically do the lifestyle stuff. So you're basically applying sports-like metrics in terms of finding the numbers behind the stories and applying that to lifestyle, which is, you know, a very broad area.
Yeah, it's a really exciting time. We're definitely trying to figure out new ways to approach this kind of thing. It's something that, I mean, numbers have kind of been in the conversation about like TV ratings and how much money a movie made, but we're interested in what's like the statty approach of finding out what's really at the core of approaching these kind of things with math. So it's an exciting time. Yeah, we're having fun.
Wonderful. 538.com. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me on, Mike. I really appreciate it.
Okay, here's a big number for you, 90. That's a percentage that reveals how much higher downloads of Android apps are over iOS apps. That means Android downloads from Google's Play Store were 90% higher worldwide in the third quarter, and that's not even counting the downloads from other Android app stores. Now, here's another big number, 80. That's a percentage that reveals how much more money the Apple App Store is making than the Google Play Store. Apple's App Store made 80% more revenue than the Google Play Store in the third quarter. Both of these numbers are higher than they were in previous quarters, and the reason is China, according to the report. Well, in news you can use, a Kickstarter campaign is raising money to build a virtual reality controlled paper airplane. The airplane is real. The airplane is not virtual, and it has a camera that zaps video back to the VR headset. 2 propellers make it fly, and the product is called the PowerUp FPV, and it can be used with Google Cardboard, for example. So everything's made out of paper. The Kickstarter campaign launches in about a month, and the product should cost about $200. Here comes the video. Goofy guy running and trying to fly with a paper airplane lashed to his back. Nope, that's not the solution. So now it's this really high-tech paper airplane that you fold, put the motor on, put the camera on, and launch it. And then you stand there in the park wearing VR headsets while somebody steals your wallet. And you, of course, get to experience the flight in real time through the goggles. And it's very, very cool. And of course, you can also just look at it on your phone. It uses the kind of VR headset that you use with your phone, you know, like Google Cardboard or any other type. So very, very cool. I, for one, want one, and I'm going to be probably supporting that Kickstarter. We will see. We've got some more news for you coming right up. But let's first, I want to talk about ZipRecruiter, which is our other sponsor today. You know, ZipRecruiter is a fantastic way to hire. And I could go on and on and on about all the convenient features that they have that make it easier for you to hire and faster for you to hire, much faster, because you can post to 100+ job sites with a single click. But really, at the end of the day, the most important benefit of ZipRecruiter is that you hire better people. I'm going to give you a testimonial from Scott, who's a happy ZipRecruiter client. He said, the recruiting process used to be so painful. Before, I'd post to several places, get 1 million resumes, but only a few responses from qualified candidates. It was torture. But with ZipRecruiter, we post once and get qualified candidates in one easy-to-review place. We've hired some of our best employees using ZipRecruiter, and that is because it is so fast, so easy, and so reliable, and you cast such an incredibly wide net. If they're out there and they want to work for your company and you want to hire them, you will find them with ZipRecruiter. And today you can try ZipRecruiter for free. Just go to ZipRecruiter.com/TNT. That's ZipRecruiter.com. Don't forget the /TNT part. And we thank ZipRecruiter for their support of Tech News Today. In news you can lose, the English town of Chesham is working with Virgin Media to pioneer the idea of serving up free Wi-Fi from the sidewalk. They're calling it smart pavement because, of course, sidewalk is an Americanism, and it involves wireless routers being installed on the underside of manhole covers. The manholes are access points for Virgin networking anyway, so it's pretty easy to connect the routers to the internet. Special antennas give the hotspots a range of up to 260 feet. What a great idea. Remember when all cities were going to get free Wi-Fi everywhere? Wasn't that cool? Never happened. Well, our TNT fan of the day is Kevin Elgan, who lives in Silicon Valley and who posted this picture on Google+. He's right now traveling in Fez, Morocco, and catching up on Tech News Today in a 400-year-old house. And yes, he's my son. Check that out. What a beautiful place. Show us how you watch or listen to TNT. Just record a video or take a picture of yourself or your setup or your 400-year-old Moroccan house and post it on Instagram, Google+, Twitter, or Facebook, and use the hashtag HowIWatchTNT so we can find it. And let us know what's on your mind. Send email to tnt@twit.tv or call 260-TNT-SHOW. That's 260-868-7469. You can subscribe to Tech News Today on Spotify, and I highly recommend it. Choose your favorite way to subscribe at twit.tv/TNT. And you can watch us live every weekday at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1700 UTC at twit.tv/live. And you can follow us on Twitter at Tech News Today TV. You can follow me personally at elgan.com. And don't miss our other new show, Tech News Tonight, at 4 p.m. Pacific every single weeknight. And that is the Tech News Today. This show is produced by Jason Cleanthis and edited by Kevin King. My name is Mike Elgan. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you Monday.